What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I will be reacting to the world's most famous steam train, the Flying Scotsman. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, baby.
Welcome to Curator with a Camera. I'm Anthony Cools, Senior Curator at the National Railway Museum, and we're here at King's Cross Station in London to look at the icon of steam, Flying Scotsman.
And it's all black. Oh, I love how that black on black looks. I love how black on black looks. Oh my goodness. It don't matter if it's a car, a bus, a train, a house. I like black on black.
Station in London to look at the icon of steam, Flying Scotsman.
You can't even see this thing at night. The Flying Scotsman, okay.
King's Cross is a classic location, and here there's two absolutely splendid developments of rail technology. On the left, the LNER Pacific A3 Flying Scotsman, and on the right, the Azuma Hitachi 800 series, high-speed train for the LNER. Now, there's 100 years separates them, and yet they're machines made for the same purpose.
Okay.
Let's have a look at Flying Scotsman and see what made it the absolute star that it's become. Why is it famous? Well, quite often people say it's famous for being famous. Flying Scotsman burst onto the scene in 1924, but the frames of it were laid down in 1922. In 1923, it was put into service without a name and as number 1472 in the newly created London and North Eastern Railway, the LNER. The railway were looking for a locomotive to send to the British Empire exhibition in 1924 at Wembley, and they chose this engine. And in time for it to appear at Wembley, it was named Flying Scotsman.
Flying Scotsman.
After the 10 o'clock service from here, King's Cross, to Edinburgh, by naming their newest locomotive after the Crack Express train. This engine was given a place in popular history forever. So there's lots of books about Flying Scotsman that'll tell you its history, tell you the story of it, how it's travelled the world, it's circumnavigated the globe, it's been across Australia, America, first engine to do 100 miles an hour authentically, non-stop run from London to Edinburgh. But what is it that makes it tick?
So, forget all the newer trains. This train was the first one to do it right here. The first train to ever hit 100 miles per hour, go across the world. Flying Scotsman. Alright, I'm gonna have to read an article on this because I know absolutely nothing about trains. Come on, we all know this. I know absolutely nothing about trains. Have I taken trains? Yeah, but I've never done research on them like that. Besides when I react to these videos. So it's gonna be interesting, man.
Basically, non-stop run from London to Edinburgh. But
non-stop.
What is it that makes it tick? What actually is this machine that Nigel Gresley and his team designed and put together in 1922-23? Well, it's a Pacific locomotive. That means the wheel arrangement, there's 4 small wheels at the front, 6 feet 8 diameter driving wheels, and then what's called a pony truck at the back end supporting this massive firebox. So this engine is driven by 3 cylinders, 3 steam cylinders, one on either side, you can't see the other side today, and a third in the middle, whose steam valves are actuated by what's called a 2-to-1 lever in an ingenious combination created by Harold Holcroft. So this engine, whilst it bears Gresley's name as the designer, has an input of many people, many draftsmen, many engineers who made it what it is. Now, we move along the loco, and you can't help but notice these smoke deflectors, these elephant ears, these troughs on either side of it. It wasn't built like that. It managed most of its working life from 1923 to 1959 without these. But with the changes of coal quality in the 1950s, there were experiments in the drafting of the front end, and the engine could burn inferior quality coal with a double chimney. But that softened the blast, the chuff that came out of the top of the engine, and the smoke drifting along the top of the boiler became a problem because it obscured the driver and the fireman's views.
That makes sense.
These
That makes a lot of sense.
German pattern, they call them Vita, smoke deflectors were fitted to lift the smoke up above the boiler and take it out of the view of the driver and fireman. So the engine didn't always look like this. We've represented it today in the form in which it left British Railways service in 1962. And it bears its final number.
Oh, my Americans, yes, the conductor has to be able to see. Look, I know we all probably thought it before too. I did as a young kid. I thought they was just tapping on that gas and the train was just following the tracks. I didn't know that the conductor was actually steering. Come to find out, there's been a lot of trains, even in my city, that I live 15 minutes away from, Philadelphia. Multiple trains have ran off the tracks because conductors were not paying attention. Whoever would have knew, right? You learn something new every day. The conductor has to be able to see, man. He has to be able to see. Especially what if somebody's like in the railroad, like if they're in the way of the train, you gotta move. So he has to be able to blow that horn if he sees something odd going on in the tracks. A kid, an animal, something stuck. He has to be able to see so he can stop the train ahead of time. That way he doesn't hurt anyone. I used to think these conductors were blinded. They were just tapping the gas. That is not the case.
And it bears its final number, 60103.
60103.
Which is the number that British Railways gave it in 1948. So Flying Scotsman is known quite often as 4472. But before that, it started life as 1472. During the war, it became 502, then E103. Sounds like a food colouring, doesn't it? And then finally 60103 under British Railways. So it's also been all sorts of different colours. So it started in the apple green of the London North Eastern Railway, went during the war, the Second World War, to wartime black for economy and austerity. Then it was apple green again for British Railways. It was blue for a time.
Ooh.
Really quite a striking experimental blue for a couple of years in the early 50s.
Was it red?
And then it finished in this quite classy BR dark green, which is, many have said it's a bit like British racing green. It's also Land Rover green if you're into that sort of thing. So
I may be colorblind, but I could have sworn that it was like a midnight black in the beginning of the video. Is that just how it looks? At like a different angle? Or is the front of it black? Am I going crazy? In the beginning of the video, it looked like a midnight black. Oh, man.
British racing
No,
green.
I'm not blind.
It's also Land Rover green if you're into that sort of thing. So moving along, there's a lot of features of this engine that still would have been around when it was new, but it was built as what was called an A1 class locomotive. That meant that whilst it outwardly looked very similar to this, there were a lot of detail differences. The boiler pressure was lower, the steam dome was higher, the chimney was higher, the cab was higher. And the engine's been rebuilt successively over the years, and in 1946 was converted into what's called an A3, with a higher pressure boiler, this banjo dome on the top, and a number of other changes. And in 1953, it was also converted to left-hand drive. So whilst it's still Flying Scotsman, it's a collection of parts that bear that identity. So very little of this engine actually goes back to 1923.
The front of it was black. Okay, that's my clarification right there.
Bear that identity. So very little of this engine actually goes back to 1923. One of the bits that is left, and I can't remember which one it is, but one of these beading on the splashes here, one of these, at least one, is brass, which was a special show finish that it was fitted with for the Wembley exhibition. Likewise, parts of the bottom of the cab side are also original from 1923, but the boiler's been changed, the frames have been replaced, even the nameplates aren't original. But like Grandad's broom, it's still Flying Scotsman.
Right.
100 years old in 2023, still operating on the national network in steam. That's again where there have been various changes to make this loco fit to operate on the national network. You can see here concessions to operating in the 21st century, the danger of the overhead live wires. That's because those cables up above the boiler all carry 25 kilovolts. It's a lot of electric. And,
Yes, it is.
I better not wave this thing any higher because
Nope.
we will actually get people quite concerned about us getting close to the wires and the cables.
Yup.
But, you know, this engine can still run on the national network. It's been altered, so it's got air brakes that enable it to operate with modern carriages.
You know, I pretty much assumed that this monumental train right here would not be the exact, not be the original from the time it was created. Because, I mean, come on now, things start to get worn out over the time. They start to get old, and you gotta constantly upgrade to newer things throughout your time. You have to. Is this train, that's a stupid question. I don't think this train is still running, even though the smoke is blowing out of it. I feel like that's just for show, so everybody could take a look at it and see what it's like, as if it were moving, you know, like the real thing. But I don't think this train is going anywhere. I think it's stationary now, safe to say. Or is it? Will this train actually be moving throughout this video? I'm talking like I know something. I don't know nothing. Yo. Let's just find out, man.
It's been altered, so it's got air brakes that enable it to operate with modern carriages. But in essence, this principle of boiling water to make steam, to make the loco run, it's still just what it was in 1923.
Also, I noticed he's not really calling it a train, a locomotive. Should I say that throughout this video? Locomotive? I don't want to be left out.
Loco run, it's still just what it was in 1923. It can run at 75 miles an hour, and it can do that for miles at a time. And that's testimony to the mechanics of it. These wonderful 6'8" driving wheels, you know, they allow that engine to run for miles at a time at speed along the East Coast main line. But then there's little details as well, like the mechanical lubricator on the running plate and the sandbox, the lid for the sandbox, so you can refill it and sand drops down.
Oh, interesting.
By steam.
Sand.
You can start to see the steam jet on the sander just down there. So that as the engine is digging in to get a grip, as it pulls the heavy train out of King's Cross up through Gasworks Tunnel, Copenhagen Fields, the engine is able to accelerate smoothly and powerfully and be able to put all that horsepower, that steam energy, to effective use. But what's it like on the footplate? It's always great to get into these locos and have a look-see and see what's going on and find out the atmosphere. And it's really nice to be able to do this with a live engine today. So let's go and talk to the man who's driven Scott.
Okay, so before we actually talk to the conductor that has driven the Flying Scotsman, first question is, have you guys ever visited the Flying Scotsman before? Is this at a museum? Have you ever had the chance to visit this and see it in person and go inside? And did it actually look the same when you seen it, or was it a different color? Was it actually black, or was it blue rather than green? And how is it on the inside? I'm very curious to see how spacious it is or how congested. I mean, oh my goodness, you could imagine. I'm thinking that as he enters the Flying Scotsman, he's gonna have to duck his head so that he doesn't hit it on anything. It might be a little claustrophobic in there. Yeah. I'm curious to see the inside. How big is it? How spacious is it? Or is it very boxed in? Because that makes the ride a little more rough. I've been in a train that was boxed in. Like, the inside wasn't so spacious, and it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, there's more space on airplanes.
Be able to do this with a live engine today. So let's go and talk to the man who's driven Scotsman.
All right, here we go, man. That's where they throw the coal. That's cool. I've never seen that before in person.
Whilst I've had the great privilege of being able to fire this engine on several occasions, I've never actually driven it. So,
boy, look at the inside of this. How are you supposed to know what does what? All these knobs to turn, all these handles. How do you know what controls what? Oh my goodness, it looked like an airplane. This resembled an airplane. This reminds me of like going on an airplane and the pilot would have like the door open to the cabin where he actually sits and flies, and you get to see all the buttons and everything and knobs, and you be like, how do you do it? I look right back at the pilot like, how do you do it? All them buttons, man. And one of them told me before, well, you wouldn't believe it if I told you, but I only really use about 5 to 6 of them. I'm like, stop all that lying. I still don't know if he was being dramatic or not. I can't even imagine having to concentrate and control all of these diameters, knobs, handles, buttons, whatever else there may be, while still steering the train and paying attention. It's a lot on their hands. I've never seen the inside of a steam train before. Never. And I'm curious to see what it looks like while they are driving this train. I want to see the people themselves throwing the coal in there while the train is moving. I only see that type of stuff in movies, man. It's pretty cool.
Whilst I've had the great privilege of being able to fire this engine on several occasions, I've never actually driven it. So for this part of Curator with a Camera, we're going to have a chat with Clive from our workshop and traction team, who's been there, done that, and isn't wearing the t-shirt, but he's got the tie on today. So Clive, do you want to take us through what it's like to drive this thing?
It's a real pleasure, it's a privilege. The engineering side of it and the history is phenomenal. Picking up what Andy was saying earlier on, because we're working on a modern railway and heritage, we've got the modern equipment with the GSMR radio there on the tender front, which is the global radio signalling system that you can use.
Right.
It's got TPWS and AWS on it, like the modern units, which is a safety system related to the signalling and the control of trains. And then it's got all the normal, what you'd expect to see on any steam engine. We've got a pair of gauges there that show you the boiler water level. We have a firebox, which is 42 square feet of grate to burn the coal, create the steam. The fireman has the privilege of moving the coal and making the steam so we can move along. He's got controls over damper door, the injectors, and then for the driver, he gets all the fun of the braking system, which has been modified on this one to air brakes, but it can run vacuum trains, but the actual engine's air brake. They've got the reverser here for forward and backwards and altering the cut-off to make it economical to run, use the steam expansively. That's the regulator handle, and of course we've got the magic whistle, which everybody wants to blow, including Anthony.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's
So
cool.
we're on a live steam loco, Clive, and it's a bit like a toy box. We've just played with the whistle, but everybody wants to have a look in the fire. Can we have a look in
Let's
the box,
have a look in the
please?
firebox,
Yeah,
yeah.
lovely job.
Okay, this is where the coal goes. This is
There we are.
cool.
Not a huge amount in there today because we aren't going anywhere. Try not to melt the GoPro on the
So how much coal do you actually need while traveling? You gotta throw the coal in there. If I'm not mistaken, because like I've said, I've only seen this in movies, in cartoon movies, Disney movies, Pixar movies. Come on now, I've never seen this in person. You know how much coal you need to keep throwing in there in order to keep that train pushing? I'm asking. I'm not really. Look, I'm just asking. How much? I mean, like, how much coal do you really need? How much coal do you need to move this thing to keep it going? And whose job is it to stand there all day throwing that coal in there? Is it one or two people? I'm assuming that it's like 2 or 3 people taking turns throwing coal into this very little hole. Like, say you're in the middle of traveling and you run out of coal. What do you do now? What do you do? Can they pick up coal from like one of the other stops? But they said this train just keeps on going on it. They don't really stop. So therefore, you need the coal. You got to keep going. I'm pretty sure they measure everything out to make sure you have the right amount of coal to travel with before leaving the station. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Somebody could overthrow. What if somebody got way too much coal on their shovel and they're just throwing a ton of it just to be like, come on, let's get this over with. And now the train can't even make it. You got to do it in a strategic way, I'm assuming, as well, right?
today because we aren't going anywhere. Try not to melt the GoPro on the plate. And you can see the brick arch also in there, which deflects the gases and ensures complete combustion. But should we drop it down again, mate?
The new brick arch.
The new brick arch, yes. Can't have a second-hand brick
part
arch
of the
in it.
overhaul.
So there we go. Flying Scotsman at King's Cross. It doesn't get any better than this. And it's really quite something that we can celebrate 100 years of this locomotive, built in 1923, but operating on a national network in 2023. But Flying Scotsman is more than the most famous steam locomotive in the world. It's an absolute flag bearer for industrial, transport and engineering heritage. Whether you're an engineer or a school child meeting it for the very first time, this thing is magic and it appeals to all ages on so many different levels.
It scratched that question I had earlier. It's obvious that the locomotive is stationary in that it's not going anywhere right now or at all anymore. It's meant for monumental purposes only, and that are why these people are here and recording and able to go in to where the conductor actually handles everything. Okay, this would actually be really cool to visit when I come to the UK. This is something that I'm looking to go to. There's a lot of amazing art galleries and museums that I can go to. Plenty of them. So I'm going to make sure I add this one to my list because, hey, I've heard and I've learned about so many of the trains in the UK, but I've never had the chance to actually go on them and ride them. So being able to ride these underground railroad systems will be an amazing opportunity, and being able to step foot on the Scotsman and being able to take a tour of it is truly fascinating. Come on now. It's something I have to do. It's something I need to do. I've never seen where people throw the coal in there. I've never seen that in person. That is amazing. Most of the trains you see now do not even need coal. They run on electric. So, I mean, it's not like you get to see something like this every day or experience riding something like this from your destination to your next destination every day. No, you can only visit this. And I wasn't living around the 1900s, so now I definitely got to go see this for myself.
This thing is magic, and it appeals to all ages on so many different
They
levels.
gonna let me blow the horn?
What a fantastic tribute to the people who designed it, made it, operated it, saved it for preservation, overhauled it for us all to enjoy across the UK in this very special year.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us at King's Cross for a fantastic...
King's Cross? That's where it's at? It's at King's Cross? Am I saying that right? Somebody please include the destination down below in the comment section. King's Cross? Gotta go there. I have to go there. And I want to learn a little bit more about this train too. Is this train anything special? Is there anything I should know about this train right here next to it? I'm curious because there's only 2 trains in this monumental site. If you all enjoyed this Flying Scotsman video just as much as myself, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and turn all post notifications on. Feel free to share this video and channel to your friends and family members. And please, continue to flood my comment section and suggestion link in the description down below if you would like to recommend some more of these fascinating, phenomenal videos for me to check out. Everyone, feel free to let me know what you thought about this video down below in the comment section. And have you yourself or any of your family members or friends ever had the chance to visit the Flying Scotsman before in person? At this wonderful museum, of course. And have you actually had the chance to ride the Flying Scotsman back in the 1900s when it was actually open to ride? Everyone stay safe, and I hope to catch you all in the next reaction video.